Paris, 1815. Napoleon has just lost at Waterloo. His empire is crumbling, the Allied forces are dictating terms, and diplomats across Europe are drawing up lists of everything France needs to return. Looted art, mostly. Paintings and sculptures taken from occupied territories during 2 decades of revolutionary wars. The Ghent Altarpiece is on that list. The central panel, showing the adoration of the mystic lamb, the wings depicting saints and martyrs converging on that mystical moment, all of it was packed into crates 21 years earlier and shipped to Paris under the banner of cultural liberation. Now, it's supposed to go back to Belgium. But Napoleon doesn't want to return it. He's already lost his throne, lost his army, lost the wars that were supposed to reshape Europe in France's image. But this painting, this feels different. It's not just a trophy. It's proof that France understood what art could be, that the revolution's vision of making culture public and accessible wasn't just propaganda. The Louvre had opened up these masterpieces to ordinary citizens, had turned what was once locked in churches and palaces into something anyone could see and learn from. Returning the altarpiece feels like admitting that vision was wrong. Or worse, that it was just theft dressed up in philosophy. Which, of course, it was. But Louis XVIII, the newly restored French king, has his own reasons for returning it. Belgium had given him refuge during his exile, and returning the altarpiece is a gesture of gratitude, a way of acknowledging that debt. The central panels are packed up and sent back to Ghent in 1815. After 21 years in Paris, the adoration of the mystic lamb returns to St. Bavo's Cathedral. Here's what's interesting, though. Napoleon wasn't entirely wrong. This painting did deserve to be seen by more than just the people who happened to live near it. It was revolutionary, technically astonishing, the kind of artwork that changed what people thought painting could do. And because it was so important, because it achieved something nobody else had managed, everyone who saw it started to believe they had a claim to it. Not just to see it, to own it, to possess it. And over 6 centuries, 14 different people or armies would steal parts of this altarpiece, making it the most stolen artwork in history. And almost all of them would tell themselves they weren't really stealing. They were saving it, protecting it, rescuing it from people who didn't understand its true value. They had reasons. Good ones, sometimes. Philosophical frameworks, moral justifications. They genuinely believed they were doing the right thing. But you start to wonder, if everyone who steals something claims they're actually protecting it, what does protection even mean? I'm Emma Laramie, and this is Verso. But before we talk about exactly who took what and when and why they all thought it was justified, you need to understand what made the Ghent Altarpiece worth this kind of obsession in the first place. It was completed in 1432 by 2 brothers, Hubert and Jan van Eyck, though the exact division of labor between them has been debated by art historians for centuries. The painting was commissioned by Jaus Vid, a wealthy merchant, and his wife Elizabeth Borloo for their private chapel in St. Bavo's Cathedral in Ghent. When closed, the altarpiece shows the Annunciation, the angel Gabriel appearing to Mary, and the 2 donors themselves, Jaus and Elizabeth, kneeling in prayer. These were already noteworthy for Van Eyck's decision to paint the donors as realistically as possible. No flattery whatsoever. But when you opened it, when you swung those panels wide, you saw something nobody had ever quite achieved before. 12 panels expanding into 24 sections of imagery, standing 11 feet tall and 15 feet wide, depicting the moment when all of creation converges to worship the Lamb of God. In the center panel, a lamb stands on an altar, bleeding into a golden chalice. Around it, crowds gather. Saints, martyrs, pilgrims, hermits, prophets, all moving towards this single moment of salvation. Above it, in the upper register, you see God the Father enthroned, flanked by Mary and John the Baptist, with choirs of angels singing on either side. And on the outer wings, you have Adam and Eve, the first unidealized nudes of the period, shown in a way that would make even the Italian Renaissance painters look like they were working with approximations. But the most important thing, what made this painting not just beautiful but revolutionary, is that Jan van Eyck figured out how to make oil paint do things nobody knew it could do, and he used that technique to create something so theologically complex, scholars are still not entirely sure what the painting is about. Nobody knows exactly what every element of the painting means. The symbolism is layered and dense and widely open to interpretation. And before Van Eyck, painters worked primarily in tempera, which was pigment mixed with egg yolk that dried quickly and could only be layered so much before the colors went muddy. But Van Eyck popularized a technique of building up thin, translucent glazes of oil paint, layer upon layer, creating depth and luminosity that seemed to come from within the painting itself. He could paint the way light actually behaves, how it reflects off armor, how it diffuses through fabric, how it catches on a single strand of hair. He painted flowers so precisely you could identify the exact species, and he painted jewels that seemed to reflect the light. He painted skin with pores and textures, bodies with weight and presence. The result was a painting that looked more real than reality sometimes, and a technique that quickly spread throughout Europe, and remains one of the primary ways of painting. Albrecht Dürer traveled from Nuremberg to see it in 1521 and called it, quote, a most precious painting, full of thought, end quote. He understood he was looking at something that had changed the rules. Michelangelo studied it. Every serious artist who wanted to understand what painting could actually do had to contend with the Ghent Altarpiece. It is considered both the last painting of the Middle Ages and the first painting of the Renaissance. And because it was so good, because it achieved something nobody else had managed, everyone started wanting a piece of it. Literally. This painting would become, over the next 6 centuries, the most stolen artwork in history. Not copied the most, not forged the most, actually stolen, physically taken, more times than any other painting in existence. But the painting was never meant to be famous in this way. It was made for one specific chapel in one specific city, commissioned by locals, painted by a local artist, intended for the people of Ghent. It was theirs, part of their civic identity, their religious life, their daily experience of the sacred. But once something becomes that important, that revolutionary, it stops belonging only to the place that made it. It becomes something the world decides it has a claim to. And for the next 600 years, people would act on that claim again and again, each time with what they believed to be excellent reasons for why they should be the ones to possess it. But for 134 years, the painting rested in the Ville Chapel at St. Bavo's peacefully undisturbed. Then came 1566 and the Bildensturm, the iconoclastic fury when Calvinist Protestants across the Low Countries decided Catholic imagery had to be destroyed. You see, the Protestants of Ghent believed their Catholic neighbors were violating the Ten Commandments by praying to icons instead of through them. They hated the buying of indulgences that allowed Catholics an easy absolution of their sins. And to them, the Ghent Altarpiece, already legendary, paid for in part by a Catholic merchant hoping to improve his chances of getting into heaven, was emblematic of everything wrong with Catholicism, which meant it had to be destroyed. So on the night of April 19th, 1566, rioters wreaked destruction around the cathedral before turning their attention to St. Bavo itself. Drunk on adrenaline and anarchy, they tried to pry open the locked cathedral doors, but without a battering ram, they failed. This was a stroke of luck for the altarpiece and the guards stationed to protect it, who quickly realized their numbers would be no match for the mob if they ever got inside. So the guards made a decision. They dismantled all 12 panels of the altarpiece and carried them up to the top of one of the cathedral's towers, still within the building, just out of reach. Each night after that, they stationed themselves single file along the tower's narrow spiral staircase, which was easily defendable, and then locked the ground floor door. Their instincts were good. 2 days later, on April 21st, the rioters returned, this time armed with a tree trunk as a battering ram. They heaved it against the cathedral doors again and again, the wood crackling and splintering, buckling at the center with each impact. As soon as there was an opening big enough, they burst through carrying torches, the flames illuminating the dark quiet of the cathedral's interior. They ran straight to the vid chapel, eager to drag the painting out to the pyre they'd prepared for it. But finding the spot empty, their spirits were broken, and they left empty-handed. After this near miss, the altarpiece was moved to the fortified town hall, where it remained until 1584, when it was finally returned to its original spot in the vid chapel. But something had changed. People had understood that the painting was portable, that it could be taken apart, hidden, moved, used as leverage. It wasn't just an artwork anymore. It was a political object. And the lengths people would go to protect it, the risk, the labor, the absolute refusal to let it be destroyed, that became its own kind of devotion. Protecting the altarpiece wasn't just practical, it was a duty. But the next threat came from an unexpected direction. In 1781, Holy Roman Emperor Joseph II visited St. Bavo's and was scandalized by Adam and Eve's nudity. This wasn't a mob trying to destroy the painting or an army trying to steal it, but it was a continuation of the same kind of religious fervor that jeopardized it in 1566. He didn't want to take the whole altarpiece, just wanted those 2 panels removed and replaced with something more suitable. Clothed versions, perhaps. Church officials managed to deflect him, but copies were made showing Adam and Eve modestly draped, just in case future viewers proved equally squeamish. The original stayed, but the incident revealed something about how power works. You don't always need to steal the whole thing. Sometimes you just need to control what people are allowed to see. For another couple hundred years, the Ghent Altarpiece rested safely in its home, but it would be the last stretch of time that it would ever do so. Because then, in 1794, the French Revolution is winding down with the rise of General Napoleon Bonaparte, soon to be emperor. Along with the many deaths of the revolution came a great amount of art looting, with the most prized objects taken to Paris to be displayed at the newly opened Musée du Louvre. It was in many ways an astute move. and the motivations for this looting were very much in line with the ones behind the revolution, to transfer power from the elites to the common people. These stolen objects symbolized the fall of those from whom they'd been taken. What was once the property of wealthy aristocrats, beautiful objects only they could enjoy, were now visible via this new museum for all to see. And there was something genuinely revolutionary in that idea. For most of human history, great art was locked inside palaces and churches and private collections. If you weren't wealthy or clergy or connected, you simply didn't get to see it. But the Louvre, when it opened to the public in 1793, really was one of the first major museums where anyone could walk in off the street and stand in front of a masterpiece. That mattered. That changed something about who got to participate in culture. But also, they were stealing. This kind of activity was confined mostly to France until 1794, when French armies spread their desire for conquest north into the Austrian Netherlands and south into Italy. The French established the Committee for the Education of the People, sending knowledgeable civilians to seek out and obtain works of art in the countries they were invading, then bring them back to France. Now, if your goal is to confiscate the best art in whatever town you're invading to bring back to your boss, and you happen to be in Ghent, what is the one thing you want to make sure you take above all else? In August 1794, French commissioners arrived at St. Bavo's Cathedral with orders to, quote-unquote, secure the Ghent Altarpiece for the French Republic. The painting that had survived iconoclasts and an emperor's moral disapproval, the painting that had lived in one building for 362 years, was dismantled and shipped north to Paris. The French army successfully took the central panels of the painting, though it's been lost to time why they didn't initially take any of the other pieces. Nevertheless, when they arrived in Paris, the panels they did steal immediately became one of the Louvre's top attractions. Ghent city officials protested. The church protested. But none of it mattered. The commissioners had a philosophical framework that made the theft sound like charity, and they had an army to back it up. Now, the Louvre was not only important for the way it opened up access to art for the masses. It was also instrumental in forming the very idea of what we think a museum should be, even today. And this was thanks to a man named Dominique Vivant-Denon, the first director of the Louvre. Before his tenure as museum director, Denon had worked as an artist in the court of Louis XV and as an ambassador in St. Petersburg. Despite his monarchist sympathies, he managed to avoid execution thanks to the painter Jacques-Louis David, who vouched for him. And afterwards, he openly supported the French Republic, but less because he truly believed in the cause and more because he was nothing if not an opportunist. He soon became close to Napoleon and would go on to be one of his top confidants and his main artistic advisor. And as director of the Louvre, Denon had ideas. He felt strongly that museums should present a complete set of the best representations of each artistic movement in history, acting as a kind of crash course in art history for the masses. This goal of creating the world's finest and most complete art collection made him painfully aware that France's quote-unquote ownership of the Ghent Altarpiece was incomplete. So, in 1802, Denon contacted the Bishop of Ghent. Would they be willing to sell them the Adam and Eve panels? The answer was a firm no. Well, what if we gave you some of our Rubens paintings? Denon countered. A nice try, as Rubens was Flemish, but he was from Antwerp, not Ghent, so the bishop didn't particularly care. Defeated, Denon contented himself with the spoils he already had and they remained with the French until Napoleon's defeat by the Fifth Coalition in 1814. But this marked the first of several instances where the Ghent Altarpiece became a prized spoil. Not something to destroy, but to be kept for themselves. And so much of the desire for it came from the fact that so many other people wanted it. Every time something happened to it, it became more and more a symbol of victory. The time the central panels spent in the Louvre made them more famous than they had ever been before. But the panels were finally returned to Ghent in 1815, a thanks to the city of Ghent on behalf of Louis XVIII for housing him while he was in exile. And the altarpiece was reassembled in St. Bavo's Cathedral. For a moment, everything that had been scattered was whole again. It lasted less than a year. You see, the 19th century was a time when art collectors, through legitimate and illicit means, built enormous collections, profiting from turbulent political climates and newly impoverished aristocracy who had sold off their collections to a new class of nouveau riche with aristocratic aspirations. In some ways, art became even more than before a trophy to show off their wealth and social standing. The 19th century also saw the evolution of the Ghent Altarpiece from a work of art capable of inciting religious outrage, representative of the city of Ghent, into the battle standard of the fledgling nation that would become known as Belgium. It's also important to note that at this point in history, the concept of ownership was very different than it is today. It really did used to be the case that finders were keepers, which meant people felt less strongly about things being sold off in sketchy ways. Which made the altarpiece's next theft much less of a scandal than it would have been otherwise. In 1816, while the Bishop of Ghent was out of town, the Vicar General of St. Bavo Cathedral, a man named Jacques-Joseph Le Sueur, stole the 6 panels that made up the wings of the altarpiece, which had been the 6 that remained in Ghent when Napoleon had taken the rest. Le Sueur is a shadowy character in the history of the Ghent Altarpiece's many thefts, but we know he was French-born and a staunch imperialist who disapproved of the reinstatement of King Louis XVIII following Napoleon's exile. He saw art, and the Ghent Altarpiece in particular, as a symbol of French victory that should have remained in France. But he also saw it as a cash grab. His stealing of the 6 panels would have meant nothing if he didn't have someone to sell them to. Enter Lambert-Jean Nieuwenhuis, a wealthy dealer based in Brussels. He was portly, regal, and eagle-eyed when it came to opportunities both above and below board. He took full advantage of the French invasion and the chaotic distribution of art that ensued, selling whatever came his way across all of Europe. Historians think Nieuwenhuis commissioned Le Sueur to steal the panels, paying him what would have been the equivalent of only $5,000 today. With that small of a payoff, why would Le Sueur have done it? And why were those the only panels stolen? At the time, the winged panels were thought of as being less important than the main imposing central panels. Plus, given that the central panels were the ones at the forefront of everyone's mind because they had been so recently stolen, Nieuwenhuis probably thought nobody would miss these very much, and if he was caught, it wouldn't be as big of a deal. As for Le Sueur's motivations, nobody really knows beyond what would have been an ideological motivation for restoring Napoleon's supposedly hard-won war spoils. But even that doesn't make total sense, because the panels ultimately ended up in the hands of an English-born, Berlin-based man named Edward Solly, a massive art collector whose collection was ultimately purchased by the Prussian king Frederick William III in 1821, with the intent to start collecting works for a Prussian national gallery that he hoped would rival the Louvre in its scope and importance, including the panels of the Ghent Altarpiece. These panels would live in what would become known as the Kaiser Friedrich Museum, and they would stay there until 1920, following their restitution as part of the Treaty of Versailles. So here's the pattern that's emerging. The painting becomes more valuable precisely because it keeps getting stolen. Each theft adds to its legend, making it more desirable, turning it into a symbol of national pride or imperial ambition or cultural sophistication. And each person who takes it believes they have a better claim than whoever had it before. Better intentions, better understanding, better ability to protect or display or appreciate it. So by the turn of the 20th century, the central panels of the Ghent Altarpiece remain at home at St. Bavo's Cathedral, while all of the winged panels are housed in the Kaiser Friedrich Museum in Berlin. Then, in August 1914, Germany invades Belgium, and within days it's clear that Ghent will fall. Canon Gabriel van de Gheyn of St. Bavo's Cathedral has to decide what to do about what's left of the altarpiece. Van de Gheyn is not who you'd expect for this kind of high-stakes operation. He has a boyish face which is accentuated by a close-cropped haircut, smoothed flat on either side of a central part. It gives him the air of a local newspaper boy. His infectious enthusiasm for history, art, and Catholic mysticism shines through in everything he does, though there's something in his gently downward-sloping eyes, a sadness and a wisdom that suggests he's older than his years, that he's seen enough to understand what's at stake here. But he has spent his life in service to this cathedral and its treasures. He understands exactly what's coming. The Germans will want the painting. Maybe they'll protect it. Maybe they'll take it to Berlin as they did a century earlier. Maybe it'll end up as collateral in whatever peace negotiations eventually happen. But none of that matters to Van de Gheyn. His job is to keep it safe, to keep it in Belgium. So, on August 13th, just days before German troops enter the city, Van de Gheyn oversees the dismantling of the altarpiece. It's delicate, dangerous work. These panels are nearly 500 years old, massive, immensely heavy, and irreplaceable. Each one has to be carefully removed from its frame, assessed for stability, and then wrapped for transport. He's working with a skeleton crew, people he trusts absolutely, because the fewer who know what the full plan is, the safer it will be. The panels are then loaded onto junk carts, which were ordinary wagons used for hauling refuse and supplies throughout the city, nothing that would draw attention as being anything out of the ordinary. They move through the streets of Ghent under the cover of darkness, these masterpieces hidden among common cargo, disguised as something worthless. Van de Gheyn is arranged for various hiding places throughout Belgium, in attics, basements, bank vaults, anywhere secure enough to store them, but inconspicuous enough that German searches might pass them by. When the Germans do finally arrive and discover the altarpiece is gone, they demand to know where it's been taken. The Belgian government tells them parts of the altarpiece have been sent to England for safekeeping, shipped across the Channel where German forces can't reach them. But of course, it's a lie. A deliberate misdirection to keep the Germans from searching too hard in Belgium itself. The truth is that the panels are still in the country, hidden and scattered, moved periodically when someone gets nervous about discovery. Van de Gheyn coordinates this network of hiding places, keeping track of which panels are where, making sure they're being properly stored in conditions that won't damage them, checking on them when he can travel safely. It's dangerous work. If the Germans discover he's been lying about the painting's locations, if they find even one panel, the whole scheme collapses. But Van Eyck isn't thinking about that, or if he is, he's decided the risk is worth it. The altarpiece is Belgium's, Ghent's, St. Bavo's. It's his responsibility, and that's enough. The war drags on for 4 years, and the altarpiece stays hidden, scattered, known to only a handful of people who've decided this painting is worth the trouble, worth the risk of German reprisal if they're caught lying. It's almost absurd when you think about it. In the middle of total war, with millions dying, with Belgium occupied and brutalized, a small group of people are dedicating themselves to keeping a painted altarpiece out of German hands. But that's the other side of what makes the Ghent altarpiece valuable. People don't just want to steal it, they'll put themselves in danger to protect it. The same intensity, the same absolute commitment, just pointed in the opposite direction. When Germany surrenders in November 1918, Van Eyck can finally begin bringing the panels home. It takes months to reassemble everything, to track down all the scattered sections and return them to Ghent. And to add insult to injury for the Germans, Article 247 of the Treaty of Versailles instructed Germany to return the parts of the Ghent altarpiece they had stolen nearly 100 years earlier. Of all 440 articles in the treaty, this one stung more than most. In the German imagination, the panels had been rightfully theirs, acquired legally, donated to a national museum. Time, they believed, erased any wrongdoing of theft. But the treaty said otherwise. After their departure back to Belgium, the Berlin Museum placed a placard where they had been displayed that read, "Taken from Germany by the Treaty of Versailles." The return of all the panels was nothing short of a royal procession. A special rail car decked out with Belgian flags was fitted to safely transport the panels, stopping at towns all along the route so that crowds might gather to view and welcome the return of their national treasure. Receptions were held. Officials gave speeches. Church bells tolled throughout the country. For the first time in over 100 years, the Ghent altarpiece was again whole. The altarpiece was saved, put back together in St. Bavo's Cathedral, with every panel accounted for, placed back where it had been for nearly 500 years. But here's the thing about that word saved. Van Eyck saved the altarpiece by hiding it, by lying about where it was, by coordinating a network of secret locations. The Germans wanted to quote-unquote save it too, or at least that's what they claimed, by putting it somewhere secure under their protection. The French, a century earlier, saved it by bringing it to Paris where it could be properly appreciated. Everyone is saving it. Everyone's protecting it. Everyone has excellent reasons for why their claim is legitimate and everyone else's is theft. Van Eyck probably didn't think in those terms. He probably thought, this belongs here, I'm keeping it here, that's my job. Which might be the purest form of protection. No grand philosophy about universal patrimony or cultural liberation, just a simple refusal to let something precious be taken away. But even that clarity won't last. Here's what I keep coming back to with all of these stories. The Ghent altarpiece survives. Through iconoclastic fury, through revolutionary looting, through world wars and scandalized emperors and shadowy dealers, it survives. Most of it, anyway. But does it survive because of all of this theft and movement and supposed protection, or despite it? Every person who took this painting believed they had good reasons. Napoleon's vision of public museums really did democratize art in ways that mattered. Van Eyck's protective instinct really did keep the altarpiece out of German hands during World War I. Even the guards who hid it from the Calvinist rioters in 1566 were acting out of genuine devotion. But somewhere in all of this, in the philosophical justifications and the artistic appreciation and the nationalist pride, there's a simpler truth. When something is this beautiful, this revolutionary, this important, people want to possess it. And we're very good at telling ourselves stories about why our desire to possess something is actually about protecting it or understanding it or saving it. So the painting becomes a mirror. You can look at it and see whatever you need to see to justify whatever you want to do. It's sacred heritage when that's useful. It's secular art when that's useful. It's Belgian patrimony when Belgium wants it back. And it's universal human treasure when someone else wants to keep it. The Ghent Altarpiece became the most stolen artwork in history, not just because it's beautiful or revolutionary or valuable, although those are all partly reasons why. But because it's all of those things, it becomes the perfect canvas for projecting our ideas about who deserves to own beauty, who understands it best, and who has the right to control access to it. And those questions don't have easy answers. Should great art belong to the place that made it, or to the world? Is a painting safer scattered and hiding, or whole and on display? When does protection become possession, and when does possession become theft? These are questions we still debate about all kinds of artworks, from the Elgin marbles to the Benin bronzes, and the works looted by Nazis that have ended up in museum collections. But the Ghent Altarpiece can't answer those questions for us. It just keeps being beautiful, keeps surviving, keeps meaning something to everyone who sees it, regardless of who claims to own it or why. But the story isn't over. The altarpiece, or parts of it, will be stolen again. On the next episode, we'll dive into the brazen theft of 1934 that remains unsolved to this day. But first, stick around for one mystery that did recently get solved. There is one more mystery worth mentioning, one that doesn't involve theft, but speaks to how much we still don't fully understand about this painting. Remember earlier in the episode when I said that the painting was made by two brothers, Jan and Hubert van Eyck? Well, for centuries, Jan got all the credit. But in 1823, during a cleaning in Berlin, restorers uncovered a hidden inscription that said, quote, "The painter Hubert van Eyck, than whom none was greater, began this work. Jan, his brother, second in art, completed it at the request of Jaus Vid on the 6th of May, 1432. He begs you, by means of this verse, to take care of what came into being," end quote. And cue the art world losing its collective mind. Who was Hubert? No one really knew. Scholars knew of him, but not a single painting could be definitively attributed to him. He was mostly a name scattered through dusty documents with inconsistent spelling, laid to rest in a grave tucked inside the very chapel where the altarpiece once stood. He was a mystery. Some called the inscription a forgery. Others argued Hubert was just the frame guy. A third camp took it at face value. Hubert started the painting and then died, so his brother Jan finished it. But in 2021, modern conservation that was begun almost a decade earlier finally settled the matter. Using infrared reflectography to examine the underdrawings beneath the paint, the preliminary sketches that guide the final work, they found an astonishing bit of information. Evidence of two distinct hands, two different approaches to drawing and composition. Some panels showed loose, confident underdrawings, suggesting an artist working quickly from a fully formed vision. Others revealed more tentative, reworked sketches, an artist figuring things out as they went. The technical analysis suggested not only that the inscription was indeed real, but that Hubert may have been responsible for more of the innovative composition and design than previously thought, while Jan brought the technical mastery of oil painting that made the final execution so revolutionary. It's fitting, somehow, that even now we're still discovering new things about the Ghent Altarpiece, still uncovering layers of complexity and genius that have been there all along. The painting keeps its secrets, even as it reveals itself to anyone who looks closely enough. So, it turns out, Big Brother Hubert did start it. The sky, the hills, maybe a few figures, and Jan took it from there after he died. Today they share the credit, but let's be honest, one became a legend and the other a footnote. Classic younger sibling energy. This episode was written, narrated, and produced by me, Emma Laramie. If you enjoyed this story, if something here surprised you, made you think differently, or just gave you something interesting to talk about over drinks with friends, do me a favor. Follow the show. Leave a rating or a review if you're feeling generous. And if there's an artist or moment in art history you're curious about, drop a comment below. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.